Hi, everyone. I'm Professor Bond, a faculty member in the Department of Communication Studies, and I wanted to take a moment to introduce you to my research. Given that you're in an introductory communication studies class, I thought it would be useful to hear how the work that your faculty members produce is related to the content that you learn in your introductory level classes. My specialty in the department is in something that we call media psychology. So I am really interested in media messages, what those messages look like, and how those messages influence people who consume those messages. So a lot of my work looks at how media exposure influences our attitudes, our behaviors, and our beliefs. One of the concepts that I find particularly interesting is something that we refer to as parasocial relationships. So a lot of my research actually looks at how our relationships with characters and celebrities develop. When I say relationships, I certainly mean one-sided connections, right? You might have this feeling that your favorite fictional character is close to you, that they are your friend, that you're happy when they're happy and you're sad when they're sad. That's not mutual, right? There's no reciprocity there. If it's a fictional character, it's somebody who doesn't even exist. So they certainly don't feel close to you, but you feel close to them. And this can work with fictional characters, with celebrities, with actors, with musicians, with politicians, people that you see on screen that you feel connected to that don't know you exist, right? And that's the basic premise here. And I study that idea because the argument is that if you feel like these people are close to you, they must be gratifying some desire that you have. And arguably, that desire is the desire for social contact. We as human beings have a strong need to be connected to others. We want to feel connected to others. And in fact, in terms of evolutionary psychology, it's needed. We need to feel connected to other people. Other people provide us with things. They help us survive in our society. And the human mind, though capable of understanding the difference between real life interactions with other people and interactions that we see on screen, doesn't really make the effort. So when you're watching television, you typically process the introduction of a new character in the same way that you process seeing somebody for the first time in real life. You make judgments about people on TV using the same characteristics that you use to make judgments about people in real life. This is a mapping of your interpersonal relationships, which you're certainly talking about in your introductory level course, with your mediated relationships. And ultimately, this can be described by a concept that we use in media research called uses and gratifications. Uses and gratifications basically argues that we use media to fulfill certain needs that we have. That is, we are gratified by media. We are not simply passive consumers, right? We're not just couch potatoes that consume everything that is possible to consume. No, instead, we are actually active. We decide what media we want to be exposed to, and we use that media. We use those media messages. We use those outlets as ways to fulfill some desire that we have. Okay, another example of why we might utilize media beyond companionship would be physiological reasons, right? So let's say that you have a big game coming up and you really want to get your adrenaline going, right? Maybe you're listening to music that you know will do that, right? That's a gratification that you're getting from media. That fits with uses and grats, the idea that you are actively, thoughtfully using media to get you revved up for the big game, okay? Or the opposite, right? You've had a really intense argument with your significant other, and so you watch your favorite television show because you know it's going to calm you down. Okay, so there are physiological reasons that we might utilize media. There are lots of reasons: for information, for education, for escapism, simply to escape our everyday lives. But the thing that I'm interested in is this companionship. When we use media messages to kind of fulfill this desire to be around others. And we can develop really strong connections to characters to fulfill that desire for social contact. either to complement our real life relationships. That is, we're really good at making friends. We have a lot of friends. And so in turn, we make friends with television characters quite easily. Or some argue to compensate for our social relationships. That is, maybe you're really lonely. Maybe you don't form friendships in real life really easily. So we utilize characters, we utilize celebrities to compensate for that lack of real life connection that we have with other people. There's scholars in media psychology who argue both of those, that media compensate and that media complement our real life social relationships. Some of my recent research has actually looked at what happens when we develop really strong connections with media characters who are different from us in some way. And if that person that we feel close to on screen can actually help to mitigate prejudices that we might have towards a particular group. Okay, so if you have racial prejudices against African Americans, against Black individuals, as a white viewer, if you develop a very strong connection to a Black television character such that that individual feels like your friend, might that reduce your prejudices against Black individuals in the same fashion as having a real life friend a real life friend who is Black might do. And this is what we call the parasocial contact hypothesis. That is, contact with people on screen who start to become parasocial friends, and the effect that that might have on our attitudes. So this is the kind of work that I do. And ultimately, this work speaks to the value of media. Media messages are important. Media messages play important roles in our lives, both as information and entertainment. They can shape our attitudes. They can shape our behaviors and even our beliefs. They can reinforce beliefs that we already have, or they can challenge beliefs that we may already hold from other experiences in our lives. Media messages are an important component of the communication studies major. You will learn how media messages are created, how they are delivered, and what influence they have on other people. That can be understood through uses and gratifications. And within uses and gratifications, I attempt to understand that by studying people's socio-emotional bonds that they have with fictional characters and celebrities. I will share with you right now that I currently have a parasocial relationship with Midge Maisel. If you're not watching The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, you're a loss. It's a fantastic show, and I feel incredibly connected to Midge Maisel, as if her and I would be friends if we only had that chance to know each other in real life. This likely means that I keep watching because I want to know what happens to my friend, and that I have emotional investment in the program and am more likely to alter my attitudes, my behaviors, or beliefs based on the way that Midge acts and Midge is depicted, because I see her cognitively, psychologically, emotionally as a friend. So think about who your parasocial relationships might be with and what that might mean for your social network and for the way in which you function in society. Hope that this was interesting and introduced you to some concepts related to media and media's effects on society.